Hello, sister, and welcome to the Art of Spiritual Living online retreat. My name is Elizabeth Foley. I am an artist and a creative catalyst. I help women overcome their creative blocks and get in touch with their inner creative spirit. We are joined today by a dear friend of mine, Karen Abend. She's going to be sharing with us a creative practice. This is a great creative practice that's simple for everybody to do, and I'm excited to share it with you. So before we get started, I want to take a moment to just tune into our breath and get really present so we can get the most out of this session. So I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes with me right now and bring your attention to your breath. Just noticing your breath, how it is in this moment. Noticing your chest rising and falling. Noticing your breath as it's passing in and out of your nostrils. And now noticing anything that's come before this moment, anything that's weighing on you, pulling you out of this moment. Let's take a deep breath in together. And as we exhale, just let that go. Now noticing anything that's coming in the future, anything that's pulling you ahead of this moment, anything you're worried about or nervous about. Let's take a deep breath in together. And as we exhale, just let that go. Let's take one more deep breath together, just bringing ourselves fully into this moment. Nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, just right here, right now. If you'd like, you can open your eyes, and I'm going to share with you today's reading. This is called Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebble of the moon are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. All right. So I'm super excited to introduce to you today Karen Abend. She is an artist with a passion for illustration, design, and daily creativity. She loves to draw, paint, collage, and work digitally. Her greatest joy is immersing herself in the creative process and channeling that energy in service of collaborative projects. Art and adventure have always been a part of Karen's life. As a child born and raised in Los Angeles, it began as a love for drawing with pastels, lettering with colored markers, and going on vacations with her family near and far. When it was time to decide on a career, Karen's desire to be immersed in museums, art, and art history led her to the field of art conservation. As an art conservator, her adventure continued, and she worked in museums in New York City and on excavations in Italy, Turkey, and Greece. Currently, Karen is designing greeting cards, illustrating a book, and hosting the online workshop Sketchbook Revival, an exploration of daily creativity and community. When she's not creating, she's usually adventuring with her family, keeping up with her yoga practice, and reading or playing with her dogs. And Karen is coming to us today from her home in Sicily. So welcome, Karen.
Oh, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I am so honored to be here and so excited.
Yeah, I am so excited to dive into your creative practice. As those of you who are watching know, some of my favorite sessions are always the creative practice sessions. So before we get started, I'd love to talk a little bit about what spirituality means to you.
Yeah, sure. I've been giving this quite some thought, and for me, really, it's quite simple. It's, remembering each and every day what's most important to me. And for me, the most important thing, hands down, is love in all of its different forms. And there's really kind of two pieces of that, this idea of like choosing a path of love for me. And the first part has to do with being more loving in my own thoughts, actions, and words. And, practicing that, first of all, with myself and being towards self-love, but also, the people who are closest to me, my family, my friends, acquaintances, people I meet in the street. So it's not about like, throwing my arms around complete strangers, telling them that I love them, but, sharing a smile and coming at them in situations and people from a place of compassion and acceptance rather than judgment and criticism. So this is sort of like my ideal way of being and how I'm always trying to, improve my ability to be that way in the world. So that's one piece of it. And then the other way this works for me, and this idea of like a path of love, is more in tune with like following my own heart and letting that lead the way forward in the choices I make in my life as much as I can. So it's like, yeah, following my heart, my love, my joys, the things that light me up as much as I can in my life. And obviously, this benefits me because if I can do more of the things that I love, then I'm just going to be a happier, more positive person. And then hopefully that also benefits like my family who have to see me every day and they enjoy being with me more as well, and things like that. And then I've been finding more recently that if I am willing to share my passions and my love in even a bigger way, like what I've been able to do with the Sketchbook Revival workshop, like what you're doing here, Elizabeth, it's that idea of like, sharing what your joys, your passions, being willing to share that and be seen, then there's also like this ripple effect and you can impact others and help others in a similar way. So it's been a really powerful experience to try and do that too more recently, something that I'm still learning. So I feel like really called to kind of wrap up this conversation about spirituality for me to share an excerpt of writing from my sister, Michelle Abend. She's no longer here with us on this planet. She transitioned a few years ago. In the last 8 years or so of her life, she got a master's in spiritual psychology. She did a lot of inner work and grew to help many people lead happier lives. And she definitely was, and still is really my greatest spiritual teacher. So that's why it feels so important or powerful for me to share something of hers. And this is something that she wrote in her own journal. So it wasn't like meant to be shared, with anybody. So hopefully wherever you are, Michelle, you don't mind that I'm sharing this. And she wrote this shortly after our mother had transitioned. So it was in a time of grief. So I'm going to read this real quick. In this special time, as I grieve my mother, I can see clearly, maybe for the first time, what spiritual teachers are always saying. This is a world of illusion. Yes, we need to have jobs and do laundry. We need to make dinner and pay our mortgage. All those tasks are part of the game and part of the illusion. But ultimately, the only thing that matters is how much love we share when we're here. It's all that will remain when we're gone. Some of us will pour our loving into self-expression, painting and writing, music and dance. Others will pour loving into our family and friends. It doesn't matter where it goes, only that it goes, and it matters. It deeply matters. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So yeah, I feel like that kind of sums it all up for me. That's sort of like, yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, tell us what you have in mind for us today and what we're going to be doing.
Absolutely. So yeah, so for me, putting this into practice is, it's one thing saying how you want to be in the world. It's another thing putting it into practice. And so yeah, I have my yoga practice, which is sort of like my self-love, expression of self-love for my body, mind, and soul. And then I have my creative practice, my art practice, and that is the area that I pour all of my loving into. That is, yeah, that's what lights me up. It's what I do for myself. And while, yeah, of course I pour my loving into my family as well, but it's really, this is the thing I do for me. And so I wanted to share with you, I just wanted to say real quick before I do that, while my creative journey has had a lot of twists and turns along the way, the thing that does tie it all together is that, following my heart has really been the thing that's propelled me forward in my creative journey. And so that's what's led me to where I am today, which is, what Elizabeth said, exploring illustration design, doing cards, illustrating books, and also exploring this idea of a creative practice, a daily sketchbook practice as a way to grow as an artist. And so that's what I want to go into with you a little more today is my current sketchbook practice. I've been doing it for about 3 months, and it is a practice that I call a heart a day practice, or the 100 hearts practice, because when I started this practice, my goal was to do 100 hearts. And it's really that simple. It's just drawing a heart every single day. And the reason why I want to share this with you is because I think it's a great example of what can happen when you commit to something and do it consistently over a period of time. You can really, even if it's just a small thing, because this practice is really small. That was how I designed it, was to be really doable. And if you do that, though, you will experience growth. You will experience, forms of evolution and even transformation just from doing a small thing every day. And so that's really what this has been an exercise for me personally, like building consistency so that I can experience that magic for myself, because everybody talks about, because I have struggled with keeping up a daily sketchbook practice prior to this. And I feel like I finally found like the magic formula that works for me. And by doing this, it's been like, yeah, I had to be really doable and easy, something I could do quickly, which, is what my heart does. For me, my heart a day practice, it's like really small, like the format I do it in, I'll show you in a minute, is like super small. I really limit my materials that I use, and I know what I'm coming up to do. I'm doing a heart, so I don't have to think about, oh, what am I going to draw today? I already know what it is. It's all set up for me. So that's the way that I'm able to make it so doable and fit into my life, because I have so many other projects that I'm trying to do, and that's why I've always struggled in the past. It's like, how do I fit in this one thing that's going to be just for me into my day and experience that magic of evolution that can occur if you do stick to something over time. So, and then the other thing my practice has to be for me is it has to be meaningful and it has to be fun. Otherwise, I'm not going to want to show up for it. So for me, the meaningful part of this is, obviously the heart. It's like, it's so related to what is important to me. So I get to tune into my heart every day. And that's like a wonderful exercise, and just being present and appreciating my vast array of feelings. But it's also meaningful because I've allowed myself to develop certain skills, creative skills along the way too, by choosing the materials I want to use and seeing what happens with that. So that's the meaningful part. And then the fun part, well, I get to draw hearts. Like, I love hearts, and I get to play with my pens. I love pens. That's like really brings out the inner kid in me, doing those things. So that's sort of what, this practice is all about. And so, why hearts? Well, as I said, I love hearts. And it turns out, as I look back at my former work, it's like hearts are there everywhere. They're always showing up in my creativity. I know I'm not alone in this. Like, heart is like a universal symbol that so many people are drawn to for the simplicity, I think, the meaning of love, they're bold, they're easy. And so, just looking back at some of my older work, I've seen like there's hearts. Like, I just have to show you real quick. This is an old card. I'm in my husband's office right now. So on his desk is this, card I made for him. You can see I've got little hearts in there. And then I have my sister's, program for her life celebration. That's Michelle. I've got a heart. And here's one of my recent cards that I've done, and it's all about the heart. So I love hearts, and I'm sure you do too. So that's the heart thing. And the inspiration, though, for this current practice came from an experience I did with a teacher of mine, Shelley Clammer. And she is an expressive arts therapist. She's a counselor, an expert in the expressive arts realm. And she taught me this method called a heart check-in. I just want to show you what that looks like. And her approach was, you draw the shape of the heart, and then you intuitively color it in with however you're drawn to color it in. And then you flip through a magazine and you find a word that kind of captures your experience of that creative process to connect with your heart. And so I did this process with Shelley, and I loved it. I loved it for its simplicity and this meaningful thing of checking in with your heart and getting an emotion. And so it kind of clicked in my brain. It's not such a surprise, knowing my affiliation for hearts, that this would just be like, oh my, wow, this would be so fun, and how easy. So I wanted to give it a try myself. So I started out on my own, trying it out, and I kind of found that I was doing it in my own way, because I came at it, I remember very clearly on this day, this is like one of my first hearts, that I was feeling really calm. My feeling was calm. You could see I wrote it up there. And it was a Sunday. It was like a peaceful day. There was just like the birds chirping outside. The sun was shining. There was nowhere to go, nothing to do. And it was just this beautiful feeling of calm. And I wanted to capture that in my heart. So I just, I decided the feeling of this calm sea and the sun was like the perfect way for me to express that. So that's what I came up with. So the heart was like my container, and then this was like my symbols to express that. And I found it to be, yeah, it was more like, so this was the first one. Then from there, it grew to be like me coming at it with my feeling of however I was feeling, tuning in, getting my feeling, and then doing my heart as a way to express my feeling using simple symbols or colors or whatever came to me to help me communicate that feeling. So it was more like an illustrative process, a process of, yeah, the heart became my character, really, the thing that I could manipulate to capture different feelings. So it became an exercise. I'm like, what can I do to my heart? Like, how can I like manipulate my heart to capture something? And I just want to share a couple more examples to give you an idea. So some days when I check in, the feelings are really positive. I'm having really good feelings. And so the words that I come up with are really, positive words. And so when on those days, I find my hearts become like affirmations really of like how I want to feel or how I am feeling and how I would like to feel other days of my life. And it's a way to also share visually that feeling with others. I do share my hearts on different social media outlets. So I do get some feedback sometimes. And on those, yeah, with those positive ones, like there's always a really strong response from people connecting with that feeling. So that's what I find the positive emotions. So here's an example. You can see what I mean by the heart becoming my character with the arms, like the namaste arms, So we have still, we have, here I'm dealing with, I'm like playing with the feeling of quiet, like quiet as a mouse, unplug, dreamy. And so these are all really positive feelings. You can see how people could connect with those. And then on other days, though, I'm not always happy. So there are days when my feelings are more coming from a place of anxiety or fear. And so on those days, my hearts are a way to kind of become more aware of the feeling and start to release it and maybe even start shifting things and moving through it. So here's a couple of those days. For example, here's scattered, that feeling when you're just like pulled in so many different directions. And just the process of like cutting up, I actually cut up a heart and like glued it down. So just that process was so fun and it allowed me to like just feel more focused on something, honestly. And then this one vocal, I remember the day clearly. I'd just been yelling at my son and I was feeling really bad about it. And so putting the heart sideways and making it into like a screaming, thing felt very, release some of that feeling. Here's another one, heavy. And yeah, that feeling of like the weight of the world on your shoulders and you're just like overwhelmed. But look at how much fun I had with my heart. It's like he's splayed out, this thing is pushing him down. The legs are splayed out. So the process of like doing this, like already helped me start, I was having fun even though I was feeling that way. So I think that's so cool about the hearts. And then, let's see, oh yeah, and this one I also have, farewell. So it was a sad moment. We were moving and school ended and a lot of tears. And so there was a lot of this emotional stuff going on. And then the other thing that can happen sometimes, which is really cool, is that I can see like, these become like a record of my emotions, honestly. And I start to see things shifting literally day by day sometimes. And this little series is a great example. So I started out feeling cloudy, like lack of clarity, but just look at how cute that is, even though it was like, this emotion of lack of clarity, like a heart in clouds is very cute. So that was fun. And then I was feeling torn, like pulled in different directions. I was feeling like I didn't want to get out of bed, just like being hidden away and not being seen the next day. And then the next day I was feeling exposed, like naked, vulnerable, and it was not a good feeling. And then what happened, I suddenly was embracing everything and moved through that energy into like a completely new space. It was like over, like from one day to the next. And then I was in the place of loving and self-love the next day. So, looking back at that, it's just like gives me this respect for, this how our emotions just shift and change and how varied they are. And so that's one of the things I love about the practice. And I would love to actually share with you my process and like go through one heart together, if that would be okay, Elizabeth.
Yes, I would love to do that. Thank you for sharing your different hearts and emotions. They're adorable. I love how even those emotions that we would like judge as negative, like create these really cool little pieces of art. So yeah, super cute.
So I'd like to invite you to place your hands over your heart and close your eyes and take a couple of breaths into your heart with me. Breathing into your heart and breathing out. Breathing in and relaxing, feeling your heart, and breathing out. Breathing in and then breathing out. And relaxing into your heart and feeling what you're feeling today. What is your emotion? You don't have to overthink it. I like to just come at it from the first thing that comes into my mind, really, and go with that and see where it takes me. So that's what I'm going to do today. And once you have your feeling, feel free to take as long as you need with this. You can remove your hands from your heart and write down your word. So usually I would work with pencil for this first part, but I'm going to actually use a pen just to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. But the word that I've come up with, I'm going to share it with you. And I can't wait to hear what your word is. But just the word that, captures your feeling, what your emotion, the thing you'd like to express today. So my word is magic. Because, I'm feeling the magic of this amazing event Elizabeth has put together and being here together with you today. So it feels like a very magical moment. So that's my word. And your word can be anything, whatever you're feeling today. And if you're not, if you're struggling with coming up with a word, feel free to use my word. You're free to follow along and copy me, do exactly what I'm doing if you'd like to try my method, or you're free to do it your own way, whatever you'd like. And I'm using a piece of scrap paper that I have, just any old paper will do. You can use your journals, or you can use like a little sketchbook. Like I make my hearts in these little accordion sketchbooks that I was taught to make recently. Well, I've made these before with my son, but another teacher of mine, Kyla Givhan, who's actually on this event, she taught me to use these for a sketchbook. So these are great to make, and you can look online accordion sketchbooks. There's tons of tutorials if you're interested in making these tiny little sketchbooks that are so fun to use. So any old paper will do for this phase, because the first part is just like playing with your word, playing with the images that you can come up with to capture your word. So I like to think of it as symbols. What can symbolize the word magic for me in my case? And I don't know, Elizabeth, are you interested in sharing your word with us?
Yeah, my word is let go.
Ah, nice. Awesome. So, so Elizabeth has let go. And so what can symbolize that for you? And so when I'm thinking of magic for me, I have a couple of things immediately came into my mind. I'm thinking like a magical creature, like a unicorn or something. So I could, I'm just going to play now. This is like the playing phase where you're just trying out your ideas to see what you like. So, I'm drawing my heart. And if I'm doing unicorn, I could just simply add a unicorn horn on the top of the head. And I could add some little unicorny features like, a little bit of the mane or something like that to be my unicorn heart. Another way that I'm thinking of it is like more like a magician, So I'm thinking a magician's hat. So I have a little hat. And I'm thinking, so this is just like playing. You're just doodling, sketching. This is the sketching part. I'm thinking like a heart, coming out of a magic hat kind of thing. And this would be my magical moment, my feeling of magical. Some stars, maybe a little wand, that kind of thing.
I'm changing my word. Is it against the rules to change my word?
Absolutely not. You can change your word at any time, Elizabeth. What is your new word?
Well, it's related, but it just felt better. Release is the word.
Ah, nice.
It felt
awesome.
more like
Awesome. So sometimes our words are really, they can seem abstract. So this is the part where you're really kind of expressing, you're stretching your creative muscles. Like, how can I express release, And as you can see in some of my hearts, I actually turn them into like little people, and I add arms and legs. So that can
be another tool you can play with. Like you can think, how can I make my heart, you know, stretch or move or change into a way that, you know, becomes the word. So I'm actually going to go with the Magician's one for this, for today. I could definitely do a unicorn another day because I like that one too. And I could find another word, I'm sure that would work for that. So I'm going to get a fresh piece of paper for to show you what I do, how I do this. And normally, as I showed you, I do these really tiny little sketchbooks, but I want to make it bigger so you can see it. So I'm going to draw an outline for myself of a bigger rectangle. And I'm using colored markers because they're just so direct and easy and immediate and colorful and fun. But you could use crayons, colored pencils, you could collage this, you could use paint, you could use just pencils, you could use whatever you have on hand, anything that's fun for you. Anything goes with this process, really. So that's my page for this, my layout. And I like to also, when I'm thinking about my design, so as a coming at it from like more like an illustration designy person, I like to think about design and layout and composition. And so I go for these really simple kind of bold compositions where I like to have my word either on the bottom or the top. And I also like to think about the white space, you know, how I incorporate that into my piece. I always like to have leave some areas white when I'm doing these, just because I like white. I think it adds a nice contrast to the piece. So I'm going to actually start by lettering with pencil, the word magical, and at the bottom, I'm not sure if you can see this with pencil, but I do like to start with a pencil so that I can erase if I feel like I need to. You know, it's not that this is not about being perfect, but I do like to, I'm trying to do these quickly and really let go of the need to be perfect. But it is nice to be able to change things around if you need to. So I've got my word there, bottom, and I know I'm going to leave this white because that's the technique I've come up with along the way in my little evolution of hearts. And I'm going to leave that white, so I'll be outlining that. And then here I'm going to have my magician's hat. So I'm just going to sketch this out. And I've got and so you can go ahead and get your word down, get your design down, your symbols. You can do it in pencil first, or you can just dive right in and go for it if you're braver than I am. See, I'm already doing a little erasing. It seems a little too long, my hat, a little shorter. And I've got my opening here. And my important piece is my heart coming out of my hat. That. Go back and erase what you don't need. If there is anything extraneous that's come out. And I do want a couple of stars in there because that's the magical part for me.
I love seeing you do it. You know, it's like when we see a piece of art, we always just see like the finished product, but to see it evolve is really cool.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I feel that way too when I see other people do it. So yeah, that's the basic, you know, it's pretty simple. You know, and then I go back and I just sort of lighten up some of my pencil marks because they don't show through too much in my drawing. And I don't really care that much, but with the pens that I'm using, they do show through quite a bit. So depending on what you're using, you may or may not care about this. Kind of lighten up my pencils, and then I start coloring in. It really is at this point like a coloring book almost, which is so fun and relaxing, and one of my favorite parts of the process. So I like to start out by picking a couple of colors that I'm going to use. I really like to limit my palette with these. You can see how simple they are, and I find if I just choose a few colors, it gives it a nice kind of, just feels really, I don't know, complete for me somehow. So I'm using these three colors today, black, red, and kind of like a goldy yellow. And then I'm going to have the white in there too. So I know that the hat has to be black for me to be a real magician's hat. So I'm going to start by just outlining my hat with the thin side of the marker. And I know that this part is going to be white, the little ribbon. So I'm going to leave that. And then I think that's it for black. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll outline this part where the heart is going to be red. I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go ahead and color in actually I'm going to do my heart first. This is going to be red. Go ahead and outline my heart and color it in. And this is really going back to that feeling of being a kid again. And I'm not a big fan of coloring in the lines, actually, with, like, at least for my own son when he was little. I remember really encouraging him to not color in the lines. But with this process, it's all about coloring in the lines to create my design. So you're welcome to do it in my style. You can do it in your style if you have another style that you like to use. The important thing is that you have fun, because that's what this is all about, is enjoying the creative process and enjoying how your feeling has been visualized for you, what that communicates to you, whether it's a good feeling or a bad feeling. There's some magic in this process for everyone, I think. So there's that. And then I'm going to leave the band white. And normally I'd be like moving my paper around every which way so that it would be easier for me to color in. But I'm not doing that. I'm not so concerned. Okay. So the next step is to go into the background. And I'm going to leave the stars and the word magical white. So I'm just going to outline the stars so that they'll be staying white. And the background, you know, I really like to go for a kind of a color that offers some contrast so that your symbols will pop, stand out, be visible. I, learned that along the way by choosing sometimes colors that did not create enough contrast. So I felt like the symbol wasn't really visible enough for me. So that's something to think about when choosing a background color. And I outline the letters so that they come out, legibly. And, my writing is not fancy. I like to go for these simple block letters. And you can go for your own handwriting, block letters. Maybe you've got some other lettering style you like to use. It's a fun, lettering is always fun to do. So it's another fun thing you can play with. Just practice. And then you get to color it in.
I'm having a hard time deciding what color to do for my background.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my heart is bright pink.
Nice.
I don't know, maybe we'll go with blue.
That's a good, I use blue and pink a lot. And that's, yeah, if the blue is not too dark, you can always try it out on a scrap piece of paper first if you want.
That's a good idea.
I do that sometimes and make sure there's enough contrast there for you that you like it, Like just color, do a little blue somewhere.
Yep, no, that's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing, as I was mentioning, how this is a great way to see some evolution. Any practice, if you show up for it, will give you the opportunity. And I did play around with other materials when I was starting out with this practice. Initially, I had like a really old set of pens I was using. They were all kind of low on color. So my colors were really soft and muted, like that one I showed you, Calm. And then I wanted to try paints. That was the other thing I was interested in. So I was trying like a water-based paint, gouache paints. And while that was really fun, it was really, it gave it a different feeling, and it ended up taking too long for me. So I ended up switching back to the pens, but that was sort of part of my evolution. So with any practice, it's about trying something. It's really a sketchbook is a place for experimenting. It's meant to be just for you to grow and try something, both creatively and something that gives you meaning and maybe some self-care in your life that comes from your creative practice. There's different ways to look at it, but there's definitely room for playing, trying things out, seeing what works for you, and shifting things along the way. Because did you end up going with the blue, Elizabeth?
I did.
Nice. I can't see what you're doing. I don't know if you're down because of my view right now, but I want to see it if you don't mind sharing at the end.
I will share at the end for sure.
Okay, cool. And so I'm actually now in my 100-day project. Like I'm on like heart 84 now, I believe is my number. And so I'm getting near to the end of what I committed to doing at the start. And I'm starting to think like, what's next for me? I know that this is just this is like a first step in a new thing for me. So I'm like, oh, the next thing can be maybe a little bit, I can something that takes a little more time. Like I feel like I've built some new muscles through this practice that I can then expand on in my next practice. Maybe I'll continue with the hearts and do it in a different way. Maybe I'll try the painting, or maybe I'll be ready to try something else. But I know it's just part of the evolution. So that's another fun way to look at a practice.
What this has me thinking of is that so I'm an artist, which means like people always give me these little like blank sketchbooks, but like if I really want a sketchbook, I want like good mixed media paper and I want it to be big and all, so I never use them, right? So I have all these little like cool cover journaling things that I never use because I have the things that I like, but I think this would be a really fun way to use one of those. Also, I think because they're like, if they have like a leather cover or something and I'm like, oh, it has to be nice, but it would be really fun to fill one of those with all different kinds of heart things. I think I might have to do that.
That's a great idea. And yeah, that's exactly why I do these on plain old paper, printer paper, just to eliminate any of that feeling of preciousness, because that's something that has blocked me in the past. Like, and this is so freeing. And like, and if I don't like one, I can cut it out. I can glue another one on. Like, it's really, there's absolutely nothing precious about this. So that can feel very freeing to anybody who has a fear of the blank page or messing something up or any of those kinds of things coming up for them in a creative practice.
Yeah,
absolutely, Elizabeth. That would be so fun.
I love the idea too of like knowing that you're going to do a heart every day. Like, that's such a thing that like, okay, I'm going to do creativity every day. And then like, you really want to do it, but then you don't because you don't know what to do. That like blank page anxiety is a real thing. So I love the idea of just like, okay, I'm going to show up and do a heart every day. Or it could be some other symbol too.
It really could. It could be anything that, that feels easy, fun, and meaningful to you, really. And I think if you start to think about it and come up with ideas, who knows what you're going to come up with.
I like that. Easy, fun, and meaningful.
Yeah. If you can combine easy, fun, and meaningful, if you can combine, that's like the magic trio for me.
That's great. I really like that.
Yeah. So how are you doing with your heart, Elizabeth? I've completed mine. Are you still working on yours?
All right. Well, I did finish mine. So here's mine. So you can see it.
I love it.
Great.
It looks so awesome.
Thank you. And you know what? It does like feel like a little release happened in the drawing of it too. So that's good. I really enjoyed this practice. It's so simple, but really fun. And I can see how it could really become a daily kind of thing. You know, like there's a lot of practices I want to do, and it's really easy for me to be like, well, I don't have the time for that. But I feel like it'd be very hard for me to make the I don't have time excuse for this.
Awesome.
So I know that you have a really great free gift for everyone. I would love for you to share a little bit more about that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I have another video session for you. It's called Collage Your Mantra, Inspiration for Starting and Keeping Up Your Creative Practice. And this is a workshop that's kind of, going a little bit more deeply into this kind of a similar process, really. But instead of coming up with just a feeling, it's coming up with a phrase of word, your mantra, that you can incorporate into an artwork that you make using a collage technique. So that is the session. It's a really fun process. And there's also some more inspiration in there about the impact of keeping up a practice and how that can benefit from you as well. And then along with that, there is a PDF printable that has things that can help you with a collage that I give. And there's also an artwork, an original artwork that I designed that is actually inspired by my mantra that is heart related. I'm not going to tell you anything else, but it's something that I created with a lot of love that, I'm really happy to share with you that maybe can give you a little bit of inspiration for starting a new practice or keeping up with the one that you already have, whatever you'd like. So that's what I have for you. So feel free to grab that and sign up for my newsletter and grab my free gift. I would be honored.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. That sounds exciting. I love that we get to create a little art. We get to enjoy a little art. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your practice with us. I love how this is really like what you're doing every day, and you're just sharing that with us. I love that. It's so in alignment with what I feel like this retreat is all about. It's just like seeing what so many different people can do with creating their own spiritual practice. So thank you for sharing this with us. I would love to see what all of you created. So I hope that you all will snap a photo of what you made and come on over into our Facebook group and share that with us. And sign up for Karen's free gift. The link is right below the video. And thank you all for joining us. And thanks again, Karen, for being with us today.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Blessings all.